Welcome back to Atypical Talk. This is a podcast where we have conversations that illuminate the intersection of faith, culture, and the common spaces of our humanity. I'm Abby.
I'm Joel.
I'm Brooke.
And our intro question today is, if you could swap lives with an animal for a day, which one would you pick and why?
This feels not very Christian. Our spirit animals. Oh my goodness. Let's go.
Mine's flamingo.
Whoa!
Really?
Why would I not want to be tall, pink, and hanging out in a nice water, sunshiny area?
You know?
All day long.
Yeah.
That just
Great balance.
says something about your personality, that you just want to be out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at me.
Yep.
Yeah. Look at me just hanging out. I feel like they always have a lot of friends with them too. Like there's always a lot in one area.
It's not a lot of loners.
Yeah.
Aren't they pink because they eat shrimp? Do you like shrimp?
I love shrimp.
Could that be your diet?
100%.
What about you, Joel?
I am sleepy today, post Easter weekend, so I'm going full sloth. That's what I would like right now.
I literally was thinking about this question. I was like, I feel like Joel would say sloth.
Oh, man. That is embarrassing. That is so embarrassing.
Just something
There's
that takes it slow.
Joel's personality, like sloth. Like, I want to go max speed, 0.17 miles per hour. I read about sloths that they live up in trees for most of the time. They only have to go down out of the tree to go to the restroom once a week, and I'm getting older and I have to pee a lot more than that. So, oh man, that sounds really nice. Just taking it easy, a lot of sleep, very little responsibilities. That sounds like my spirit animal right now. I'm so embarrassed that you thought of that when you thought of me. Wah, wah, wah.
I have two answers. My first one is like a fish in a tropical, like coral reef. Like,
Nemo.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I think that would be really cool, just getting to live in all those colors, and there's lots of other fish and stuff. But I also really want to fly, so maybe I want to be something like a duck that can fly in the air and swim underwater.
Okay.
Dual purpose.
Yeah,
you get it all.
So I think that would be great.
Yeah, your answers were great, and I am just so ashamed of my answer. That's just where I am. It's the worst parts of me. I just want to just chill, please. That
People love
great.
sloths, though.
They're cute. They're cute. Mm-hmm. And I don't have that going for me, so I don't know, man.
Oh my goodness.
So our first article today is a Time article titled "The Return of the Direwolf." Colossal Biosciences, a company founded in 2021, is using genetic engineering and ancient DNA to bring back extinct species like the direwolf and woolly mammoth. They have successfully cloned 4 red wolves and 3 direwolves, Romulus, Remus, and Khaleesi. The dire wolves are the first animals to be de-extincted by Colossal, with their genome edited to match the ancient dire wolf species that went extinct over 10,000 years ago. While the company sees this work as a way to prevent existing endangered species from going extinct, there are concerns about the unintended consequences of introducing these genetically engineered animals back into the wild. Experts warn that even small genetic changes can have major impacts, and that confining these highly social and wide-ranging animals to small preserves may not be enough to truly rewild them. The article also highlights the ethical concerns around de-extinction, such as the risk of introducing invasive species. Colossal is proceeding cautiously, studying the health and behavior of the cloned direwolves before considering any future releases. So it doesn't sound like they're ready for Jurassic Park quite yet, but we might be getting there.
I mean, that's just my first question is, none of y'all see Jurassic Park?
Yeah.
Or Jurassic World? We've got like 8 of those movies now. Nobody thought about that. I mean, it's just a wild thing. And as somebody who watched the Game of Thrones series where there were dire wolves that were all CGI, this is crazy to think about. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. What did you think about this, Brooke?
I don't know. I thought it was crazy. And the article kind of spoke on this too, but I'm like, what's next?
Yeah.
Like the dire wolf now, but what's coming next?
Yeah.
I mean, woolly mammoth is on the docket, so that's a wild reality.
That one scared me a little.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but
yeah, no. Bringing back such a big animal like that, like, I feel like you can keep going. But I love the fact that it's these tests and these scientists are working towards helping animals that are endangered right now. I think, the animals that are here on Earth are the ones that we need to, take care of, and maybe not bring back ones that have already had their time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what leads me to like lots of interesting places about already had their time. Like I was just reading like, why do we think the dire wolves became extinct in the first place? And a lot of it is like what we did as humans. A lot of it was like over hunting and taking out their food source. And a lot of it is tied to climate change and changing climates where they live. So that really makes like an interesting wrinkle to me. Like, well, if it was humans' fault in the first place that it became extinct, then is it wrong to like bring them back if we can bring them back? So that's just like a little bit of where my mind goes. And as like a Christian who believes that like God is in the business and will ultimately restore creation and put things back the way they're supposed to be. And if we're Christians and we're supposed to partner with God in that restoration now, maybe this could be a part of what I'm getting a little weird and theological there, but like maybe there's like something to it. Maybe there's something beautiful about this of like taking back what was once broken by our greed as a species and as through our brokenness, and like restoring what was taken from the creation. Maybe there could be a sacred reality in that. I'm speaking out of one side of my mouth. The other side is like, this is terrifying. And where does this go next? And where are we going to put the woolly mammoths? And are we going to have a dire wolf puppies in our neighborhood? They're going to eat my dogs. What's that all look like? I don't know. But I'm not like an alarmist about it. The idea of de-extincting it's a fun word I never thought that I'd get to say in my lifetime. So the fact that someone's thinking about this, and God's gifted scientists that have come up with these abilities, even if they're just ripping off Michael Crichton in Jurassic Park, it doesn't matter. It sounded kind of cool to me.
Yeah, I thought it was just really interesting. I have seen this, not this specific article, but so many people talking about it. Like, this is a huge thing right now, and I'm curious to see where it goes from here.
Yeah.
So our next topic today is a U.S. News article by Patricia Gersafi titled "It's Not a Woman's World, and All-Female Spaceflight Won't Change That." The article discusses the recent Blue Origin spaceflight that featured an all-female crew, including celebrities like Katy Perry and Gayle King. While the flight was touted as a feminist victory, the author argues that it was more of a marketing scheme than a meaningful advancement for women's rights. The author notes that the women on the flight are accomplished in their respective fields, but the experience was more of a pleasure trip to outer space than true space exploration. The author points out that real feminism is not about wearing makeup in space or promoting consumerism, but about addressing deeper structural issues like misogyny, racism, and economic inequality. The author contends that space exploration is important, but the Blue Origin flight does not represent that. Similarly, feminism is vital, but this particular space trip does not embody feminist ideals. That's not to say the women participating aren't accomplished. All of them have more than excelled in their fields. But space travel isn't about glamour, and feminism isn't about wearing makeup in unusual places. Overall, the author concludes that a brief jaunt to space is unlikely to meaningfully change the reality that it is still not a women's world on our planet. So what was your guys' reaction to hearing about this?
I'm going to sit this one out and let you guys talk first. Go ahead.
I think it's interesting. I have seen so much about Katy Perry and not a lot about these other women.
Yeah.
But overall, I think it's really interesting. I mean, I know a lot of people probably are wondering what it's like up in space, but also, I don't think they should have marketed it as like a feminism movement. We're going up as if they're going to like change something for the better. I don't know how long the trip was, but I heard maybe like 5 minutes or something. It wasn't very long.
From the time that they left like the ground and came back, it was 11 minutes total.
Yeah.
Which my favorite part of that is I saw somebody online have their notifications on their phone, and it was a DoorDash order where it said they ordered DoorDash. Katy Perry went up in space and came down, and then the DoorDash came right afterwards. I'm like, wow, that's pretty quick when you think of it that way.
Exactly. So, yeah, I don't know if the way they are promoting it is exactly what it was, if that makes sense.
I think the thing that really bothers me about it is that there are so many incredible women that work for NASA and are scientists and astronauts and things like that, and they have not been highlighted the way that these women have been highlighted who have nothing to do with NASA or, you know, they're not scientists. I mean, they're all amazing women in their own regard, but there are so many women that we could be recognizing if we wanted to do something like that.
Yeah. I think it's worth us taking a look at the women who went to space before this trip. I was reading in the article, there was a woman who took a solo trip in 1963.
Wow.
It was a 3-day mission that she went on.
Longer than the
solo.
DoorDash order.
Yeah. And that is amazing.
Yeah.
But before reading about this, I had no idea who this lady was. So I think it would be really cool to celebrate the women who went before, not necessarily just these women who went on Blue, what was it?
Blue Origin.
Blue Origin.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because I think this could be a really interesting conversation about celebrity and the power and impact of celebrity too. Because I think in Blue Origin's thinking, they were like, well, let's get these women that everybody already knows up there and let's have them have this experience. And then it'll be like this win for women in the feminist movement. And there has been just a hilarious backlash. I mean, it's so much against this idea to where I honestly, as somebody who thinks that celebrity is dangerous and kind of a fraud in and of itself, to think that these people are more important because they have a platform or they're on screens and stuff. I'm kind of like gleefully looking at it like, oh, maybe like people start realizing celebrity is a joke. Like there are professionals, like Abby talked about, women that have gone through the ranks and done the work, and they are experts and impressive in their own right in this field. Right. And we're laughing at Katy Perry singing Firework, you know, not even getting to the third chorus, Firework during her trip. You know what I mean? And so like, I think to that, I just peel back and I'm like, man, celebrity, when we think that celebrity makes all the difference, it really doesn't. And this is maybe just a little blip on the radar, but this is a moment where it seems like popular culture is sort of seeing the joke of celebrity too. Like, why are we celebrating these women doing this? Yeah. When, you know, as the article points out, and we'd all say they've all done incredible things in their own right, but they're not astronauts. And so I think that's an interesting thing, because I think it fell flat because people are like, this is a joke, right? Yeah. Because this is not who we should be celebrating or how we should be celebrating these women.
Yeah. I think too, if these women are wanting to like make a difference and do something good, they have the platform to do so without having to necessarily go to space. Like there are many other different things that they probably could have done to make a difference if that's what they were going for.
Yeah, one of the big critiques I've been seeing is that people were saying that the carbon emissions that came from that was more than someone's going to produce in their lifetime. And so they're like, for a marketing scheme, you're going to, you know, add more carbon emissions to the planet. And it is a very important critique that I think we need to look at, because if it was for actual space exploration or, you know, some type of mission like that and not a little joyride to space, like it would make sense. But yeah, it doesn't look great.
Yes.
Okay.
You guys said it. I didn't say
it. Would you guys ever go to space if you were given the chance?
Heck yes, I would go to space if I was given the chance. I'm chasing wonder, and like, so any opportunity I have that's gonna like blow my mind and see a bigger picture of God's creation and of life, man, I'm in. So I'm gonna have to get the sign off from home, but I would totally entertain that idea of going to space if somebody else was picking up the bill. Yeah,
if someone else had the bill. Yep.
But yes, for me, yeah.
I would go to space, but I would not want the backlash that Blue Origin is getting right now. Yeah. But I would go, like Joel said, if the bill was paid.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
I feel like I would be scared to go. Like, I really think...
What are the chances you get Matt Damon up there? What are the chances?
That's the thing. I don't think I've ever watched a space movie where...
It goes right?
Where it goes well.
That's so true.
Everyone dies.
Everyone dies. There's some alien that gets into the ship. Yep. I mean, where it never goes well. That's a boring movie. That's why, probably. But
I also get motion sick really easily, and I feel like that would be worse with zero gravity. I don't know.
Just a drip of Dramamine the whole time. Yeah. That's what you have to do.
Exactly.
Oh, yes. You've got to do it, though. That's awesome.
So our last topic today, it's a Relevant magazine article titled, "What if God isn't speaking because you're never silent?" We say we want to hear from God, but we also treat silence like something to be solved. A podcast for the walk, a playlist for the shower, a sermon in the background while we answer emails. Even our quiet times are filled with someone else's voice. In 1 King 19, the prophet Elijah is exhausted and angry and waiting for God to show up. There's a mighty wind, an earthquake, fire, but God's not in any of those. He shows up in a whisper. That should tell us something. God doesn't shout over the noise. He waits for it to die down. And sure, we're all busy, but it's not just about time. It's about attention. We fill every second because silence makes us feel unproductive and honestly a little exposed. So if you're feeling stuck, unsure, or like heaven's gone quiet, maybe ask yourself this. When was the last time you were actually quiet? No worship music, no devotional app, no performance, just still, present, willing to sit in the silence and ask God, is there something in me that needs to change? So Joel, what do you think about the author saying that we need to be silent to hear from God?
Oh, it's annoying.
It is.
Get off my case. I think this is such an important article and such an important perspective because it's so countercultural and so counter to the way that I feel like I'm naturally wired and the way that we are maybe naturally wired and especially conditioned to noise and stimulation in lots of different directions. And so, yeah, I think it's really interesting that he talks in the article like how we feel not only like eerie or unproductive, but we feel a little exposed. Like there's something in those moments when there's no other voices going on where it's like, oh man, it's just me and God. And that makes us uncomfortable if we're not already walking with God and inviting him into other parts of our day too. So I think we run from it because for me, vulnerability is something that scares me, right? It scares all of us to be vulnerable and to be completely seen and known. And silence takes away our armor of all these other distractions that we can fill ourselves with or performances that we can put on. So I think this is such an important message and something that I struggle with. And it's not, I don't have it down like math in my life. I have to fight for these times, and I have times when there's rhythms that are really strong and times when they're not. But yeah, I think silence is really the key in a lot of ways, and it's something that we don't only not have, but we run from in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Now, I definitely am there with you. I do not like silence. I have to have music on when even if I'm just hanging out in my house, not doing anything. I want music on. I want YouTube on or something to fill the noise. I might not even be paying attention to what it is, but just to fill those silences.
And I think it's interesting because, they really do tie God's voice and God speaking to the silence. And I think the scriptures do that all the time, right?
Yeah.
And so if there are times and seasons of our life where we feel like our spiritual life is dry or we feel like God's not as present as he used to be, I think God is sort of looking at us like, would you just quiet down? Because I'm trying to get a word in edgewise and I can't between the podcasts and the gaming and the movie or the TV series that you're watching or the constant doom scrolling. Like, I want to speak to you. And so I would just caution everybody not to complain at God or to feel like God's maybe not there, more so to take a look at our time and the audio around our heads to be like, oh man, what if I would quiet down? There have been some rhythms in my life that I've sort of stumbled into that have been really helpful with this. I used to, we had have a smart speaker in our bathroom. And before we had kids, I used to love playing music really, really loud while I was getting ready and showering and the whole deal. And when it was just Megan and I and our dog, I could get away with that, have my little rock concert in the bathroom getting ready. And as soon as we had a little one 6 years ago, most of the time I'm showering, getting ready when they're still asleep, right? That's at least the goal. And now where we have a couple of them awake, there's usually one asleep in the morning. And so you have to be like, put on a noise machine so the shower doesn't even wake them up, the water itself, right? But I found that the most clear-eyed and clear-headed that I am throughout the day is usually in that 25, 35 minutes where there's no podcast blaring, there's no music going, there's no task list in front of me because I don't carry my phone into the shower. I'm not a complete psycho. And I can actually see clearly and think clearly and just be who I am without having to perform or produce anything. And I found it to be really sacred, to where this last weekend I was showering a little bit later, getting ready a little bit later on Saturday, and all of our kids were awake, but I didn't play anything. because it was still like a sacred kind of thing. So for me, it's like trying to fight for and find those spaces to just be and sit in the silence, and be yourself before God and let it be. And I think that's something we have to fight for, that is countercultural, maybe counter what feels safe in the moment to us, but beautiful and worthwhile, because I think God is speaking. We're just not listening in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
Definitely.
So what would you say to someone who says, if God is all powerful, why does he need silence to make himself heard?
I think a lot of it has to do with intention. Like, God wants the intention of our hearts. And if our intention is to be silent and to sit with him, and then I think we're going to inevitably hear from him. Intention was my answer.
Yeah, I think it's not that he has to, but I think he wants something for us, and there's goodness in it. So like, God is all powerful. God could speak all Bruce Almighty, at us all the time. But I think he knows that there's something good for us when we're more in silence, and when we do deal with our inner thoughts instead of numbing them down, and when we do bring our full authentic selves to him without having to like Christianese it up and without having to put on some kind of pretense. I think God is all powerful, and he chooses to speak to us in the silence because he knows that it's good for us, and there's other benefits to that for us. So he could speak through the skies, but that's never been his MO. He's always been more in the quiet, the upside down, small, tiny, mustard seed whisper kind of thing. This is who God is, and I don't think there's any exception with this. And so yeah, he could do it, but he chooses to do things that the world looks at as foolish and small and insignificant, and he brings significance from those things. And so he sees that it's good for us, and he sees that he could shout, but if we're not quiet in the first place, we're not going to hear him, because we got our attention on other things, like Brooke was saying. So yeah, that's a good question. I would just say that this is the way that God works, and he knows it's the best way for us to actually not only hear, but listen to what he has to say. Yeah.
I mean, like, if you're trying to talk to someone who's looking at their phone or listening to music, that none of that, what you're saying is getting to them. So I think God is kind of like, get rid of the distractions so that you can hear what I'm saying.
Yeah, to actually not only like hear, but listen, right? To internalize what's being said, not just receive it and let it go right through you. And as you were talking about that too, I think so much of the audio that we fill our minds with and we listen to is so dispensable, and so like we take it in, chew it up, spit it right out kind of thing. And I think because we don't live with that, intention and our really fixed attention on things, because of so many different voices, we can just take it in and spit it right back out. You know what I mean? And I don't think that's what God wants to do. God wants us to like receive something, like some kind of revelation of who he is, or what he's calling us to do, or what he's calling us to change. And that is something that needs to be sat with and savored and really received, and not just, oh, I would listen to this today, and then I listened to this podcast. But I can't even tell you what that one podcast was about today. It was fun though. That's like popcorn. And I think when God speaks to us, he wants to give us steak. The stuff that we really sit and savor and think about, that actually nourishes us.
Yeah. So for the last 10 minutes of the podcast, we're going to be completely No, I'm just kidding.
Just 10 minutes. You just let the timer go for 10 minutes. And if you're really serious, you'll let it all play out.
No, that is it for this episode of Atypical Talk. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to talk about, you can email those to atypicaltalkpod@gmail.com. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at atypicaltalkpod, and make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform to get updates when new episodes go live. We hope that these conversations today have helped you think wider, love deeper, and partner with God to bring the up there down here in your everyday life. Thanks for listening.
I'm getting a dire wolf.